So, Mark, what springs to mind when you think about this gentleman that we're about to interview?
Dominic Marcel.
That's the one.
Wow, you've given me no time to even think about it. Literally didn't give me that question at all.
Nope.
What's the first thing that jumps out at me with Dominic Marcel? I have to be careful with this one. Just a thoroughly nice guy that when you get to speak to him and hear from him, deeply, passionately wants to improve the industry as a whole. And is prepared to share how he's doing it and learn from others. I think that's probably the best summary I can give for him. Without thinking about it, I might gonna go, can I redo that? Can I change that recording? But that's what comes into my mind. What's it for you?
It's so funny you said that word passion. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I think. That's the word that springs to mind immediately when I think of Dominic Marcel. He's so passionate. He's so committed to delivering above and beyond the expectations of the client, to really understand what that customer journey needs to look like in order for them to have a fantastic experience. And he will not stop until he's absolutely nailed that. So yeah, passion, absolutely. I think everybody's going to enjoy this one.
Yeah, but a pretty good story as well. And it's not just a story that's a perfect journey, right? So I think that's the whole point, is we wanted to kind of get into some of the issues and problems that Dom faced. You know, he's built a really lovely business now, and I'm sure it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. But there were some real challenging times out there, and like this first one is about self-employment. Forget who Dom is connected to. This is really about self-employment journey. So yeah, I think this is a good starting point, and with a lot more to come. So yeah, I hope everyone enjoys the conversation with Dom.
Absolutely. What's and all.
Good to see you again.
Thank you. Good to see you too.
Obviously, we want to get down to it and talk a lot about where your business is now, the plans for the business into the future, just warts and all, just talk about everything you love about the industry, everything you don't love about the industry.
Yeah.
But before we do that, just for those that are listening that perhaps haven't heard of you, which is insane,
Which
how
will
can they
which
not?
will be the majority of them. Yeah.
Just a little intro. Just tell us about you.
So I run a team in Milton Keynes Toaster and Leighton Buzzard now, called Lime Estates. So we've been part of Keller Williams since 2019. Team of self-employed agents. I've been in the industry since 2007. Yeah, 2007. Which feels a lot longer, if I'm honest. Yeah, it really does. But yeah, I suppose that's a very basic summary, and I'm sure you'll press me on different parts as we talk further.
How did you get into the industry? What made you? Not many people that get born and get raised and wants to become an estate agent. What was it that made you want to kind of enter it?
My brother, and when I say made, I think that's probably the right phrase, is he made me do it. Yeah, because we didn't grow up in like the nicest part of Milton Keynes. So my mum shipped me off to a grammar school over in Aylesbury, which I hated her for, but love her for now looking back. And did my A-levels, got really bad career advice to basically do A-levels in the subjects you're good at. So on paper, like, my CV is like really impressive, but then I walked away with these A-levels and kind of went, oh,
what am I going to do with
unless I want to be a mathematician or like a scientist, like what am I going to do? So I was working part-time during my A-levels in retail, and I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to take a year off. I didn't want to just go to uni just for the sake of it, to go and party for 3 years, because I was partying in retail anyway. And I thought, I'll go and do that for a year, work out what I want to do with my life, and then I'll go to uni. Obviously, fast forward 2 years, and I'm still in retail, still having fun and partying and all the rest of it. And my brother, who was almost like a bit of a father figure to me, because we brought up by a single mum, he kind of just literally, I remember one day pulled me aside and he goes, "You need to sort your blank out."
We could have edited that out. That's fine. So just be you.
You need to sort shit out.
Yeah.
He goes, "Look, you're 20 now. Like, you need to sort out a career. This is not a career. Like, great, you've had your fun. Do something with your life." And at the time, he was a mortgage broker for Countrywide, worked out of the local Countrywide brand in Central Milton Keynes, huge office. And he just kept saying to me, like, why don't you just come and be an estate agent? And it was really funny to me at the time. It's like, why do I want to do that? And he was like, just trust me, you know. And I think the thing is, he saw something in me of how I like to deal with people. I was always like interested in how things work. Like as a kid, I used to take stuff apart just to see how they work and put them back together again. Extremely autistic, but that's why when I went to school, I loved the science side of things in terms of like, so I did like biology to know how the body works, and I did physics to understand how the world works, and psychology to understand how the mind works. I've always been really inquisitive, and I loved that selling side of things. When I was in retail, I was a personal shopper, and I really loved kind of understanding people's motivations as to, well, why do you need a new outfit? It's like, I know you want one, but you don't need one. So really drilling down into kind of like what the true motivator was, so we can then feel into that. And I think at the time he kind of thought, if you can take that approach into property, when at the time, bearing in mind what the market was like in 2007, it was just, let's run around really enthusiastically and just make a load of money. I think he just, I don't know. I mean, he might not have saw something. He might have just literally gone, I'm going to, because to be fair, you did used to get money for bringing in recruits back then. He's probably thinking I could do 500 quid. So actually, come on. But I basically went in for an interview in that large branch, and I was just hooked from the second I walked into it. It was like that scene out of Wolf of Wall Street where you're looking at the trading floor, and not quite to that extreme, but it was 2007, and it was the biggest office for Countrywide in that
and the
area.
market was booming back
it
then,
was
right?
outrageous. Yeah. So you walked in, and this was back when you had imagine it, receptionists, like 3 of them, admin girls that were putting properties online and doing all the rest of it, rather than it all just being done via CRM. So you walked in, big reception, and the office was phones ringing and people running around and mobiles, and I was like, yeah, this is a bit of me. So I had my interview and just decided, let's give it a go.
You was telling me this story once before, and didn't you say that you was given some kind of test to do while they were, getting ready for your interview?
So that was my second interview. So my first interview was with the branch manager. My second one was with the regional. And I remember sitting down having a conversation. You know what regionals were like back then? It's all very like kind of, oh yes. And I basically had a numeracy test put down. And it was kind of, and I don't really know why we had to do them, to be honest. I think it was to try and understand like if you've got a little bit about you or not. And they kind of put the test down and walked off. And I was like, oh. So I just kind of cracked on with it and didn't realise that they'd actually gone to get me a calculator. And they came back and there you go. And I was like, oh, sorry, I've already finished it. And they were like, okay, so when can you start? So it was because I remember when I started, it was daunting for starters going into a new industry. But I mean, I didn't really realise at the time that I was like the first new start into the industry that had been put straight into that big office. You used to go out to one of the satellite branches and prove yourself, and then you would go up there because that's like the holy grail. You work in that office. Yeah. That was like guaranteed money basically. And I remember just being this kind of fresh-faced 20-year-old, if you can imagine that, just walking in like rabbit in headlights, not a clue what I'm doing, with just a phone on my desk and a load of like pieces of paper with people's details on. And it's like, right, call those people about those houses. Okay. But I didn't really get what this, I remember there being a bit of backlash. Like, who's this kid that's come straight in and all the rest of it. Yeah. But it was wicked, I think it's why, I think if I'm being honest, I was probably in that company for far too long. But I think the thing that keeps you in that way of working is that kind of, that camaraderie that you have. I'm not even going to call it team spirit, because we spent half the day trying to tuck each other up. Yeah. It was as soon as you left the office to go on an appointment, everyone's doing this on their chairs, and it was okay. They're not your apps, they're the company's apps. And if you'd come back off of a viewing and you'd pieces of paper hanging out your folder, and I've just sold a house to your buyers, and you're like, what?
I think that's part of it, though, isn't it? It's like having that environment sometimes, that competitive, if you're that way, that competitive nature is huge for some people, and they do stay longer than they probably should, like because they're enjoying.
It's always the people that keeps you there, isn't it?
For sure.
It is, yeah.
Absolutely, because it's not the money.
But I have to say, back then though, it wasn't terrible. When I first started, I went in on pay deal, which was you got a basic salary or your commission, whichever was higher. So you were encouraged to put chains together, but you used to get 12% commission. of whatever you exchanged on. So I remember
it's pretty high, isn't it, compared to
it's not what it is anymore.
Well, I'll tell you what the same company now pays in my patch, which is they pay 3%.
I was going to say it's like massively high.
But back then, we were charging 2.6% fees.
Yeah,
like it was literally that was the dumb thing.
Yeah,
and so the fees now are lower. And the commission percentage is lower, but it was. I mean, I think I had about 55 grand's worth of completions that went through 1 month, and then I remember staying up on midnight the day before payday to go to the ATM to literally be like, wow, like that's actually I've just been paid that.
Yeah.
But then obviously you just then go and spend it all,
and
then you kind of get to the end of the month still and you're going back on it. So it's just that cycle still, isn't it? It's the same, it's working any job, but especially working in sales where it's commission based. It's just just constant. Before you know it.
So how long did you work in that particular environment then, on the sales side?
No, it wasn't sales initially. Was it?
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah.
Oh, it was initially.
8 months.
8 months.
That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you went from that being quite. So how many people were working in that environment?
So there were 4 listers, 7 negotiators, 3 admin, and then you had mortgages and executive homes and new homes. So it was a busy office.
That was a big hub. Right?
Yeah. We used to do
pretty unusual.
Yeah, it was the flagship, and I remember that's why it was, like I said, it was such a kind of like an eyebrow raiser when a little kid just gets thrown in there from scratch. But it was amazing and frustrating at the same time because I didn't get it. Like I didn't get. One of my I think kind of light bulb moments was I remember sitting down with morning meeting every day, and the thing was, it was like you always knew when you were in trouble as a team, because you went into the morning meeting and the meeting table was full of like sausage rolls and sweets and chocolate and Red Bull, and you were like, they're literally like filling us up to get us go. It's not a treat. This is like a. And I remember I never used to be allowed like things like Smarties and stuff as a kid. It used to make me go really hyper. My boss knew that, and I remember she used to sit down with me and go, eat those and drink these like Red Bull, and you'd be like just going mad, like answering the phone. But like I said, the eye of the real kind of like, this is stupid. And if I'm being honest, it was like, this is stupid to me, was going in and we needed a result, and we were looking at the properties online, and a new house had just come on, and one of my colleagues who was a negotiator went, I know the owner of that. I sold it to them 3 years ago. And everyone's like, yes, you can call that book and about, and they're all cheering, but like, yes, we're going to call that person and book and about. We can take that on. And I'm sat there going, hang on a minute. So you sold it to them. And not only did they not call us out to do a vow, they've instructed someone else. And you now, am I the only one missing something here? Like, how is that something to celebrate? We should be. Why are you not wondering why we didn't get the business in the first place?
Yeah,
and it was just very. Yeah. So the way I looked at it, it was just enthusiasm. It was very much just kind of energy. Just yes, we'll result through just pure.
Even if it was transactional back then,
wasn't it? And there was just no strategy.
No.
And it's why, again, I kind of got to a point where I was just like, I can't do this, because I felt like it was just. It's stupid. Like, the only way I can describe it is stupid. I remember literally we used to get targets of viewing, like calls, viewings, sales, valuations booked, mortgage appointments booked, and it was like a knock-on effect. It was kind of like the calls were to arrange the viewings to then do the sales. Yeah. So I just looked at it and went, so the sales is the important number. Obviously, apart from the other bits as well, but the sales, the viewings target and the calls are only there to help you hit based on averages. Yeah. And we used to kind of have to do 6 months worth of targets being hit to get your promotion and all this. And again, I remember the last month, well, a month, I think it must have been maybe I don't know, maybe March of the next year or whatever, because I hit my targets quite quickly. I remember the regional coming in being like, I'm really disappointed in you. And I'm like, are you joking? I'm like top salesperson. And he was like, yeah, but I understand you're not going to get your promotion because you're not hit target. And I was like, I've smashed my target. Yeah, but you've not hit your viewings target. You're going to miss your promotion based on not hitting your viewings.
But you did the sales.
I was like, so hang on a minute. So I've basically sold houses more efficiently than what you're targeting me to do. I smashed my sales target, but I'm not going to get a promotion because I haven't done enough viewings. Yes. So literally, if I left the office today and went and did like 30 viewings and didn't sell a single house, you would then promote me. Yes.
Could you see him slowly dawning on him?
Because because the theory behind it was, and I love how you presumed it was a him. By the way.
Oh yeah, that's sorry, yeah.
I
was thinking of corporate back then.
But it was the logic behind it, and I use logic loosely, but it was a case of, if you did 30 more viewings, then you would probably go and sell 5 more houses. And it was like, no, it doesn't work like that. It's not, I've been able to sell that many homes off of this number of viewings because I spent more time with clients and qualifying and taking out the right people and doing this and getting to, it was that kind of relationship building with your buyers and your sellers to then kind of go, because our office was in central Milton Keynes, there's no parking, especially at Christmas. Like if you left the office, you'd be trying to park for an hour, and then you on the phone, where are you? Get back, and you're like, there's nowhere to park. I'm not leaving the office if I'm not going to go to sell a house. That was kind of like, I'm not a tour guide. I'm not just going to go out and cross my fingers and hope they like it. It was a bit more, I wanted to be more strategic then. And I get you can kind of, go a bit too far sometimes, but for me, it was really clear at that point that it was just like, it wasn't a business. That to me was not a business model. And when you look at what our targets were, I had to get away from that volume element of just kind of, let's just throw as much at the wall and see what sticks. Because it was, when I think about what our targets were, it was, I think it was 15 viewings a week and 1.5 sales a week. Work out how you can sell half a house, but you know what I mean. So it was like, for every 10 viewings, you sell 1 home, which I was like, well, that seems like a lot. Rather than thinking about taking one person to 10 houses and they borrow, and I'm thinking, if I'm doing 10 viewings at one house and I'm not selling it, like surely that's not right. But then when I went up to I don't know, we're skipping forward a bit. When I went up to regional level, I was looking at it and I'm like, we're targeting our listers at 50% conversion of valuation to instruction, and we're targeting our staff at 50% instruction to sales. Like literally, Mr. Seller, flip of a coin if we sell your house or not. Like that's insane. And then you're then looking at your conversion of sales through to completions, and you're talking about sort of like a 16% conversion of your valuations to your completions. And it's like, well, no wonder we're running around like idiots. Like, let's just focus on the conversions. Like, why are we literally saying 50% conversion of what you take on to what you sell? Like, that's just, there's the problem. Not that me not doing 30 odd viewings in a month or over a quarter. Like, let's just.
So when you got to that regional level, did you change all that then?
Couldn't. That was my naivety. That was, like I said, I moved away from sales in May 2008, and then I worked in lettings from May 2008 all the way through to when I left. Apart from when I went up to regional and kind of did the whole retail era thing under, Alison Platt that brought in. So then it was both sales and lettings. But I'm a lettings guy. Apart from when I then became a self-employed agent, that was the first time I'd done sales literally since May 2008. So it was lettings I loved because I felt it was business. Yeah. It was about, longevity of clients, and it was about sort of how can we sort of, it was more service led.
Relationships.
It was just a bit much more up my street. It wasn't just about fusing. What can we get a result today? It's a case of, well, no, because if we do this, then long term we'll get this and this and this. It was a bit more. I liked it. It was more numbers orientated. But I sat in a lettings branch, was kind of just like, everyone always has that dream of doing your own thing and all the rest of it. And because obviously we were in such a large machine, it was like there must be more to know before you don't be so stupid. You can't set your own business. Like, don't be so stupid. It's like, you had all these departments and all these levels of management.
Were you already thinking about maybe starting your own business at one point? When did that first start for you? And how far into your journey as an estate agent did you go, I want to do this on my own one day?
Probably before I got employed there.
Oh wow!
You mean letting? So
no, before
you even got into.
Yeah, I think it's a case of I always go in something. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And if I'm going to do it to the best of my ability, sort of without sounding arrogant, history's kind of shown me that the best of my ability is normally pretty good. So it's a case of I'm not going to go into this. I didn't go into it thinking I'm going to learn everything and start a business in a year. But it was a case of my goal was never going to be I want to be the CEO of someone else's company. Yeah. Well, that's not my dream.
Yeah.
And I've always got frustrated by things being done. I'm really. I mean, you know this. I'm always a bit like, well, this is stupid, and that. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that?
Yeah.
And I think having the freedom now to kind of just go, just do what you think is right.
Yeah.
Is actually massively brought out the best in me. But before I even went into it, it was like I said, it was a case of I'm going to do something. Then one day I'd like to think we're going to do it from, I don't know what size it would be, but going into it from that perspective. But like I said, it was I felt like I had to go up to regional level to understand the inner workings of business.
Yeah.
You weren't taught business. I mean, in fairness, my regional manager on letting, she was phenomenal. She's the best thing that happened to me in my career, because she really did teach us to treat it like a business. Whereas sales, it was just like, don't think, get on the phone. You know, it was just, but I still thought there was more to learn about business. And then you get to regional level and you kind of just go, oh.
So you were doing branch management for lettings for how many years?
Well, I got promoted in 2016. So I think I got made a manager of lettings when I was 21. So I must have been, 2009?
Yeah.
Maybe later than that.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
around
a long time.
Yeah.
So then you go into regional. So how long did you last in that role when you was kind of responsible for the performance of the branches?
2 years.
2 years.
2 years. Pretty much bang on 2 years.
And did you leave purely because
I hated it?
Yeah.
Hated it with a passion. And a lot of it wasn't even actually looking after the letting side. A lot of it was looking after I mean, I have to say, I think my journey when I got promoted in that company was quite rocky, because the company was going through like an absolute, it was a shit show, frankly.
Yeah.
You know, everyone can look back now and just go, it was just chaos. And so having that experience of all these changes and, you know, and all the best managers and MDs leaving, and it was weird. You know, you were very, very much isolated. That is how you felt. But I got screwed over massively when I went up anyway, because they used our patch to kind of trial this retail thing, and it was meant to be, you know, 4 sales regionals and 1 lettings regional, and because it was then merging to 5 joint regionals, I mean, the 4 sales regionals basically carved up the patch and gave me all the crap. I went into a 42% a vacancy rate into my area as a you know, a young kind of regional, like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, like, you know. So, but it was very much, you have no control over anything. You know, there was I didn't have control over budgets. Everything was set for. It was just like, my job was pointless. It was literally pointless. My job was just to motivate the staff members to do what someone somewhere told them that they needed to do, with no
understanding,
no boots on the ground information. It was literally, you can't just look at that and just, you know,
it's hard to influence them, right?
But bear in mind, we're going for the time where it was, you're not going to get your bonus, and this is being closed, and we were being, you know, we were encouraging them to manage negs out the business. But then we decided, actually, we're just going to reduce headcount in your branch. Now, so now you're not going to get a new. So there was just trying to motivate really unhappy people, and the line in the sand for me was when we just got to a point where it was, you know, I think it was a week before Christmas, they told me, you need to tell them they're not going to get their bonuses, and it was like, no, you're not going to make them work the whole year, and bear in mind it's a profit bonus. So it's like, I get about the large company, but you're seriously going to piss off the people that have actually made you profit. It wasn't even a big bonus, but these people have been relying on that for years to go on their family holidays. Really booked all of it, and now we're going to tell them they're not getting it. And I was just like, I'm done with this. This is to me, I'm never going to be one of those people that just sort of sits there and moans about my job every day, but sits there and takes a salary. Because ultimately, whether you like it or not, you're employed. Someone's buying your time. You do what the hell they tell you to do. If you don't like it, go. But don't sit there and take their money and be employed by somebody and don't do what they ask you. You don't have the right to do that. So it was very much a case of either just suck it up and get on with it and just be a yes man, which is sort of if you're a yes man, you seem to get promoted. And it's just like, that's just not who I am. Like, I can't be that person. So I then left in 2018 and came to Keller originally as the equivalent of your role for the Prime Market Centre in Mayfair.
Did you suffer from obviously because were the managers aware that you hadn't had sales experience for a long time? So did you suffer from any imposter syndrome or any?
Bearing in mind, I was then managing a lot of managers that applied for the same job.
Dom doesn't strike me as someone that would have imposter syndrome.
No, that's why I'm asking the question.
That's
why I'm asking the question, because you might think that, but
I've still got imposter syndrome. I don't know what I'm saying.
Stop it. No, you're not.
No, you don't think imposter syndrome is just a perfectly normal, natural. Look, everyone's got it. Everyone has got it all the time, and even now, like, it's just like kind of just. Like, you look around and you're like, why do you want to talk to me? Like, you know, I think it's healthy personally.
How did you build that up? Through just the confidence? Did you actually get over that, or was it still there even towards the end of that particular role? On the sales side?
On the sales side, it was probably, it's going to sound really bad, but actually I didn't need to get over it because the teams turned so quickly that it's just like all the, you know.
Oh, okay, the churn was there, so it didn't matter.
No, and the thing is, you know, it's the same with anyone. I think anyone will probably tell you is when you go and when it, you know, you want your team, it's very hard to take over an existing team and keep the team the same. It's, you do need you need your people. And it was very much, you know, who's this? I mean, I was the youngest regional director in the whole of country. I think I was, how old was I? Like, what am I now? This I always thought I was like 26 or 27, maybe, I think, when I got that job. And
it's very young for a regional.
Yeah, and there are people literally that have been managers in those branches for longer than that I'm then coming in, and it's like, this guy's not worked on sales. It's come from lettings. Lettings is easy. You know, was always the mantra from the sales side of the business. But yeah, I mean, there are loads and loads of failings that I did on my side. I'm not going to say it was just the environment. I did a load of things wrong in a sense. But yeah, it was we reverted back to a separate sales and lettings thing towards the end. But then my patch was like, I think I had like 26 branches.
Wow.
And it was like, you know, Oxford, Peterborough, Watford.
And you walked away from that because you just got disheartened. People weren't getting their bonuses.
I wasn't making an impact of why I stayed in it in the first place. The thing that I always loved about this industry was the ability to actually make a difference in people's lives. Yeah. I wasn't making a difference in anyone's life. You know, I wasn't dealing with clients directly, which is part of the job I loved. And this is the irony about working in that kind of a sort of corporate environment. The people that normally do really well on the ground floor are the ones that are really good with people. Yeah. And they love like helping people. And then they promote those out of that role, and you've now got to go into a management position where you're not dealing with the same people anymore. And it's like there's only one way to be successful in those sorts of companies. But it's like there was no progression. It's to kind of say, if you want to just stay in that role, great, and we'll make a progression for you. It was like, no, you need to move from that to that to that to that. It was just really, really rigid. So I wasn't dealing with that anymore, and I wasn't making a difference. And I actually realised that I remember going in, it was they were very good when I first joined about kind of building the culture in terms of we are the best. And it was, you know, we used to have an amazing mini head office where you'd go to, and you know, every Friday as a new, you have training and you're learning like the 10 reasons why on the wall and all this stuff. And they were very, very good at building that kind of like almost like mini military type culture. And then that kind of bullshit where it washes off, and then you start to grow as a person, and you kind of then get to see that you're like, actually, we're screwing people over. We're not actually helping people. We're kind of just getting on as many houses as we can without actually caring about whether we sell them. We're tying people into long contracts. We are overpricing things, using the phrase "get it on and get it down," just to, you know, say what you need to get it on. It's better if we have it than anyone else. And it was just...
You wonder why agency had a bad name.
Crap, basically. It was literally just... Look back now and it's just like... We were fraudsters, and it's just it was it's embarrassing, to be honest, looking back. And it's a case of, it's not about how much business you do, it's about how you do business. And our quality was, like I said, 50% of where we're going to sell it. You know, it's a big deal what we do. It may not seem it, but it's a big responsibility because you know, especially when you look in the UK, like everything we do is taxed. Everything is taxed, and your equity from your personal home sale is one of the few tax-free incomes you get. And it's a case of, you know, you look at the maths, and I talk to people now about the maths of it, and they're just like, they're kind of mind-boggled by it, where if you look at nowadays, that same company, 1%, and then they're paying the staff 3%. So you kind of go, for every 10 grand more I get a home seller, the company's going to take home £100, and then the staff member's going to take home £3 before tax. How hard are they actually going to work to get you an extra 10 grand on your house sale? Or is it a case of, I just need, where's the next one? Where's the next one? And it's serious money we're talking about. Even if I get you an extra 500 quid, I don't care who you are, you'd be over the moon. And so I think not taking what we do seriously is, I think, the biggest challenge we have in this industry. It's like, it's not just it's not a sales job where you're just out there doing whatever. It's like you literally, you are the key to, it's life-changing, literally life-changing for some people. And that, I think, is what drives me, for us to constantly try and improve, because I've seen where we've made a huge difference for some people. And, you know, that's what it should be about.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously you got to the end of your journey in that corporate environment. You didn't feel that you was making a difference anymore, which is obviously why you got into it. So we're not fast forwarding as such, but tell me about how you got into Keller. What was your journey into self-employment?
Well, I kind of just got approached about it, knew nothing about it, got told about this company, this American company that was...
Was this before you left, or during, so you were still working there?
This was weirdly, very kind of serendipitously, as I made the decision that, you know what,
right, just happened.
It's almost that kind of, they all say, like,
perfect.
when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. And it's like, no, the teacher's always been there. The student's just not been, like, looking. And it was like that kind of, I was then very much not in that, because you are in a bubble, right? When you're in those sorts of environments, there's nothing else exists. Yeah. And as soon as I mentally made the decision that, you know what, this is not where I'm going to be, it was then kind of, I don't know, it's almost like you put that kind of energy out, right? And I never applied for another job, never did. I always had respect for where I was, and I just found out about it and got approached about it and kind of said, this is what, we're going to do. And I was kind of like, yeah, good one. Like not in the sense that that's never going to work, but in kind of like is this like a practical joke? Like, it's like you jumped into my head and I've kind of gone, how do we write Dom's perfect kind of like environment with all my frustrations before? Because frankly, I suppose I was quite cynical then. I didn't think that it could be done that way because of what my experience was. It was like, we've always done it this way, so it will always be done this way. And it took me a good 6 months research and sort of looking and understanding, because it was so so foreign, and I was just a bit like that's where I should be. That's where I should have been this whole time. That is exactly how I think business should be done, and I think it's exactly what the industry needed. So I jumped at the chance, took a huge pay cut to come across and do that. I had the opportunity to come and work in London on Berkeley Street, which was something that I'll always fondly remember. Realization that it's a big world up there, and there's different levels, and you feel like you were doing really well. Where I was like, youngest regional and all this, and look at my house and look at my car, and then you go down there and you go, oh, you little fish. But it was really good. It was really good for me, to be fair, and it just got me immersed in this environment, and my role was tasked with essentially kind of coming in and almost trying to work out why it wasn't being widely adopted, I suppose, to a degree to start with. It was, yes, there's elements of the job which about recruitment, but a lot of it that attracted me to it was kind of coaching, come in and help these people that are already doing this get into better production. And that was really helpful because, you talk about imposter syndrome. You think about the agents who they were back there. These are people that have got offices in Knightsbridge and Marylebone and things like that. And there's me kind of going, what the hell can I teach these guys? And actually that's when you kind of realise that there is a lot of stuff, and it's actually not necessarily the stuff that you're teaching them. It's kind of the approach. It's the mindset, the mentality side of things, of how to maybe structure things, as opposed to the actual go and do this.
Yes.
No, I get that. I actually felt exactly the same when I came into the role, and I remember saying to Mark, like, how can I teach people, how to go and do this?
Yeah. One
of the first things Mark did was go and do it, so that actually he could be the boots on the ground. He could feel it and know where the pain points were, etc. And then, like you, learning based, you've got to get out there and read and educate yourself in order to be able to articulate in a way that people understand it. And that's something about you as well that I learned quite early on. You are a very studious person. You do like to read, you like to learn. So if there's something you don't understand, you'll just go and find out more about it, right? And the same goes for when you first started your business and understanding taxation and what you'd run through your business, what you wouldn't run through your business. You did all that as well. But I know I'm sort of jumping forward a little bit here, but you came into the role doing my role, coaching people how to go out there and start their own business. You learnt the models. You read the books, you understood what people needed to do to go and build their business. When did you make the decision to step out of my role, if you like, and into running your own business?
Probably about 3-4 months in.
Oh, early.
Yeah, quite. I mean, I only did that role for 6 months.
Oh, okay.
You've seen no, let's go into, it was just very much a case of, I think what I realised quite quickly was that London is basically like another planet. And I remember it actually back at my old job wise, it wasn't even like, it was a whole different division.
Yeah.
And it's true, you don't really get it until you work here, but it's a totally different world. And the logic of me going down to London was almost like a very much a win-win situation. I get to basically come and understand the business and learn it. And the whole goal was me to go and set up my own centre in Milton Keynes.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I could then try and help that centre to improve and work out from the, from that outside perspective of what's going on, where can we help. And the biggest challenge I had was when you're sitting down with people and you're having a conversation around, you could go and do this, and they're going, well, that sounds great. Should you show me someone that's doing it and is doing it well? And I'm like, no. Without sounding harsh, because but back then it was just the centre obviously I was in, and Prime London and all the rest of it. And we didn't really have anyone like we do now that's kind of really, rocking it, that we could say, here's an example. And totally, I read Crossing the Chasm, and I remember that kind of being like, we're not going to get mass adoption or even early adoption unless we have people learning from themselves. And then that kind of was my realization of, but even if I get someone down in London smashing it, imagine going back to little old Milton Keynes and having the same, can you show me someone? Oh yeah, see that guy that runs an office in Kensington?
Yeah.
He's earning loads, and they'll be like, it's Kensington. Yeah. Like, it's just not relative. So I kind of realised quite quickly that if you're going to go and have this goal of building this market centre business in Milton Keynes, you're going to need an agent in Milton Keynes that's doing it really well, that you can almost build it around. And I literally remember like that kind of epiphany moment. I'm going, it's going to have to be me, isn't it? Because it's just like, you can either get someone else to go and do it and try and help them, or just go, well, you've immersed yourself in it, just go and do it.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, it wasn't even scary. Me just kind of just quitting my job and going, I'm just going to go and become a self-employed agent. I'm just going to go and do it, because it just didn't seem like a big deal, which I think is an element of naivety, is confidence.
Yeah, that's unusual to have that.
Yeah, I think it's because I looked at it and went, well, who's not going to want that? Like, genuinely, based on my experience, I looked at it and kind of just went, I'd be petrified if I was any traditional agent going up against me on a valuation, because it's almost like you can have this or you can have this, and they're going to go, well, obviously, so I get to a personal service and this, and yeah, that sounds, it's just a no-brainer. Like, it really is. Like, without sounding arrogant about it, it is a no-brainer.
I don't think it is arrogant.
What you're doing is you're offering the service that if you ask the client to design what they would want, they would go, I want this. You're just doing that. It's not even fair in a way that, like, what you're competing against. So that was just, boom, April 2019, here I am. And that was then like, I remember first day, and you kind of go in, so now what? Well, I've just woken up. I don't have any time frames. I don't have any schedule. I have nothing.
Did you have pure excitement though on that first day?
Oh God, no.
You didn't?
No. It was a combination of, it's like I explained to people, it's almost like, when you're about to go off on a roller coaster, and it's like that excitement, adrenaline, but also you're also crapping yourself. Like, kind of, it's just that whole melting pot of, at the end of each day, you just want to sleep, because your body is just so exhausted from all this adrenaline pumping around you. I was excited about what we could go and build, but there's a very big difference between actually kind of like theory and obviously actually then doing it. And then it was very, very, very quickly, in a way, that realization of, you're just somebody that no one knows about. You've not been a sales agent since 2008. It's now 2019. You've not even worked in Milton Keynes since 2016, because you were a regional. No one knows who you are. No one cares who you are. And then you're going up against all the, does the world need another estate agent? Absolutely not. But does it need another good one? Well, let clients decide that. But ultimately, it's almost like that. Who cares? Like, who's gonna? So it was, very quick kind of all this enthusiasm thing. There's a big gap between actually then going and getting your first client.
Yeah.
When did you get any fear at any stage during those first few months?
I still have the fear. I still have the fear. The fear just changes. But generally I still have the fear. But now I'm responsible for like a lot of people, and a lot of people's livelihoods rely on me and goals and stuff. But you just got to push through it. There's a phrase I learned early on, and I'm not a particularly religious person, but I love the phrase, which is, God puts all the best things in life just the other side of fear. It's almost like who's willing to push through it, just to kind of, it's like a test, really. You just got to turn it into fuel at the end of the day. It's like, ultimately, what you're doing is saying, hi, I've been in the industry for, at that time, 12 years. You don't think our industry is particularly good. Here's a better standard of service. You want to give me a go?
Yeah.
And it's like, we're not going into, it's like if you were doing what we're doing in America, that's fear. as like a, hi, this is the standard here, and it's really high, and there's actually no food left on the table anyway. Whereas here, it's like, this is like early adopter. This is kind of like, you've got a chance here to actually get in early and kind of build something. And that's what I think one of my driving forces is, kind of like, this is the future. Yeah. It is. This is not I remember when I first started in Keller, and it was like this big kind of tagline of the estate agency revolution, or the real estate revolution. And I'm like, it's not a revolution. I'm not revolting. This is an evolution. This is just like the next natural step for, without, again, I'm just saying how it is. Any good agent worth their salt, you're not going to stay working for someone else your whole life. No. It's a case of, this is the obvious choice for both client and agent. It's just the reality. And you will see next year, guarantee it, a lot of traditional agents will start bringing this in as a career path. Because they'd be stupid not to.
We're already seeing it. Yeah.
But just going back just a little bit. So I'm starting a business, and I'm just thinking back to myself, and so I'm going to ask you whether you had the same thing. Yeah. I can remember in my previous business getting to a moment where I had to go on every single part of me to get my mindset right to keep going. Yeah. Because the fear had taken over. Yeah. And I had one moment where all of a sudden something happened to go, a little bit of release of pressure, which allowed me to carry on. And I reckon 99% of people would have quit doing what I was doing.
I was 24 hours away from quitting. Yeah. Literally, like, genuinely, like, it wasn't even...
It's so hard to explain that to people, isn't it?
It was almost the realization, it was like reality. Yes. And I've never been in a position before where, and then the irony is, it is all psychological, because it's like, just because you have a salary doesn't mean your next paycheck's guaranteed, because you work for a company, and then when you run your own company, you kind of go, I remember, sometimes you kind of go, cash flow's looking a bit awkward there, and but people employed, lovely, it's magical fairy pays me every month. And I've never been in a position where I'm going to run out of money. I bear in mind, I came from a regional lifestyle. I had nice house. I had an expensive car, which I took the car allowance and all that. So I had a lot of ball and chain around my ankles. And funny thing was, I had to put more money into savings to pay for my lifestyle for the first 6 months than I actually put into the business to start it, which pretty much sums up the kind of the state of the whole, estate agency kind of, I suppose, industry. And I literally got to the point where I was like, I'm going to get to zero. Like, then what? Like, it never happened to me before. And it was, I could see what I was doing. I could see what I was building. It took me, I think I didn't take my first instructional for like 4-6 weeks, something like that. And bearing in mind, this was 2009, it was mid-Brexit. Market was kind of like, everyone's a bit kind of like, going to do anything anyway. So it was a pretty tough nut to crack. But I had a register, and I could see what the potential pipeline would be. But it's a case of, until they're sold or even go through, it's nothing. And I just got to, I think it was month 4. I always say to everyone, like, enjoy the month 4, like, bump, because it's a big one. It's that real kind of like, you have 2 choices. And I was stressed, non-stop stressed. And it was something daft that happened. We got 2 puppies when I started going surfing. Great idea as well. But I remember waking up one morning and opening the door, and I'm stressed anyway. And I ran in, jumped on the bed, and his tail knocked the water glass off and smashed on the floor. It broke me. I literally broke down in tears. Like, I don't know what it was. It was just this release of, this is too hard. This is just too hard. I can't do it anymore. And I was literally gonna start looking for a job and just kind of go, that's that realization settling of just, have you been a typical bloke and just always think that there's better out there? You worked for 11 years for this company and you have this position. A lot of people kill for that, and it wasn't good enough. And it was that kind of, you really start doubting yourself. And then the next day I sold 3 houses, put 25 grand's worth of potential fees in the bank. And then I was just like, okay, that was the tipping point for me. But I was generally 24 hours away from just going, psh. But the problem then was, it was like, great, I've now sold these houses. I'm still going to run out of money. So I then had a second kind of turning point, which was, you either basically need to quit and go, you give it your best shot and go into, put it down to bad luck or poor plan, whatever you want to excuse it as, or you do what you've got to do. If you want to do this, you do what you have to do. And I chose the latter, and I ended up renting my property out. So rather than me having it as a liability, I effectively turned it into an asset and just had some wanted to, you know, have the rent coming in, which actually took a lot of pressure off. And I moved me, my partner, and our 2 dogs back into my bedroom in my mum's house in September 2019.
Same house you grew up in.
Yeah. And that was like at the age of 30, whatever, like 32, I was like, this is, you know, and my poor partner, bless her, she just literally just coming along with me no matter what. And that was literally like one of these kind of, but that was how resolute I was that this is going to work. And this is how kind of like, this is going to happen.
That's the difference between...
It's grit.
Yeah.
Literally, take that.
Yeah.
It is grit, isn't it? But I think that grit, I believe it comes down from the belief that you have to get there. It's a bit like you took those difficult and put in the sacrifices because your belief was so strong.
It wasn't an option.
No.
It was almost, that wasn't the, and I think this is where it's a case of that whole kind of having a really big goal will pull you through all your smaller challenges. And it was, I had to make it as a self-employed agent, because if I didn't, then I couldn't build a team. If I didn't build a team, then I couldn't open up a market. It was almost like that's just one step. That wasn't the end goal.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot said that, you know, some people come up with like wacky goals. I'm going to earn £1 billion. It's like, you know, that we're not talking about. We're just talking about what's the next step after reaching, then what, and then what, and then what, and just always having that reminder where people have vision boards or whatever. But it was just, I had to, it wasn't an option.
It was the plan. Yeah.
That was the plan. It was just one step along the way. It was a stepping stone to get to where I wanted to get to in the end. And I think that's where a lot of people don't realise is that, you know, when the business really then took off, I was running out of my mum's bedroom in one of the roughest parts of Milton Keynes, but no one had a clue. And if I can do that there, someone that's not been an agent for like 11 years in that patch, not worked in sales, and do that out of a spare bedroom in like one of the roughest parts of Milton Keynes, then trust me, like you can do it. You can do it.
If you have that,
if you're willing to do what you need to do. Yeah, and it was that.
But you will have to make sacrifices. I don't know a single person that's been successful.
You have to give up to go up.
You can't. Yeah, it's literally a case of, if you're not willing over the next 12 months, and I say 12 months because if you've got any plans to do this, you need to start planning now, because you will need to plan a year ahead, because you've not been taught your whole life how to look after your finances, and you won't have any investments, I can guarantee. And or you're literally living paycheck to paycheck, because we all were, right? So you need to start thinking about this well in advance, and you need to start getting really good with your money. You need to cut stuff out and do this. And I'm not talking about, you know, that whole stop having avocado on toast and don't buy any coffee. I'm talking about proper stuff. If you're not willing to kind of, you know, get rid of your lovely car and just go down to something that will just get you around, then you're not going to be a success, because you don't value the bigger picture unless you've got someone. And it's almost like that irony, which is a case of, if you've got someone in, say for example, your partner's got a good job and you don't, then and you can be like, lovely, we can afford for me not to do it, then it's like, well, you probably also are going to struggle, because you're not going to have that kind of wolf at the door. Got to make it happen. So it's almost, you know, but it's tough. But this is what I love, is that obviously what we do now is becoming a lot more known. It's becoming a lot more popular on, you know, LinkedIn and stuff like that. And I love how it's like, oh yeah, we've just invented it. It's like, it's been what? It's like being, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, if you ever have a passion to kind of start your own business, this is the life of just being a I don't even use the word business owner, because most people aren't actually business owners, but you look at it as a case of, if you want to go self-employed and have ownership of something, then it doesn't matter whether you're selling candles or you're selling houses, like that's just what life's going to be like. So just suck it up, learn from other people, and just kind of do what you need to do, or just don't do it. Like, it's not a problem, but you have to be real with yourself. And some people are not cut out for it, because it's bloody hard.
Yeah, it certainly is. So how long was it from that moment where the glass was smashed? That really choked me up, by the way. I'm glad I was facing this way, because I was like, oh my God, like, get it together, Claire. Because I know those moments, and I also know how far you've come. And just thinking of you in that room at that moment when that happened, and then knowing where you are now, it did get me a little bit. So how long was it from when that happened to when you suddenly got to a point you're like, I need to build a team. I can't cope on my own.
Do you know what? The weird thing is because I've been so wrapped up, the team thing's kind of just happened around me. Like, I've not ever approached anyone, you should do this. It's been people going, look, can I come and do this with you? And I always remember, you know, one of our agents, Rich, you know, brilliant guy, and I remember saying to him, like, you should go and do this. And I remember him going like, yeah, but can I do it with you? And I'm like, really? Like, and it was lovely. It's lovely. I love what we have as our team, but it was just, that's something I would massively change. Is there wasn't really a plan around building a team. It was kind of just me running around, kind of just being entrepreneurial, doing what I would do naturally, and then that caused major problems further down the line because I didn't then plan it properly. It was a case of, you know, you've got to build before you then grow, and mine was kind of the growth happened. So, I mean, bearing in mind, like I said, that story of me moving in with my mum, we were there less than a year, but within that period of time, the business had made enough money that I didn't need to go back to my home. We kept it. We still got it now as an investment. We bought another house, bought a bigger house.
In 12 months?
Yeah. And that's what I mean. It is like, it can be that, it's terrifying. And it's why, you know, it's a case of if you can just grit, and I say it with the guys now, I remember like Richard, he was doing phenomenally with us. Got to that point where he was just like, I was like, I've been there. Like, I get it. Like, you're looking at life going, this is crap. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I going through all this stress and all this whatever? And now, you know, his new car arrives tomorrow. You know, he's got 80 grand car arriving tomorrow, which he's now kind of just like, I can't believe I've got this. But it's just that, got to get through that barrier, and you will hit it. You will no matter. Yeah. So it was. So the team thing happened really quickly, and I did it so wrong that I didn't have anyone to learn off. We were very much kind of just like happening, and we I don't want to say we were at the forefront because, you know, I wouldn't say that because I don't know enough about people, but there was certainly no one that I knew of that was doing what we had done in the self-employed space, not in the UK. And so we were just literally kind of just guessing as we go.
So you said something there. Sorry, Mark, jump in whenever you like. But I'm intrigued. So you mentioned something there that's one of the things I would change. So before we get to some of the things that you would have done differently, just tell us where you are now with the team. So how many team members have you got? What sort of business are you doing? You know, what does the money look like for you?
So this year, we've now got 5, including myself, 5 agents. And my passion is, I didn't want to kind of use this as a platform to basically build a traditional estate agency. It wasn't about, oh, lovely, this is a shortcut where I can just start a business and use all of your guys' portals and whatever. It's like, you go self-employed, you earn the right to do what the hell you want, right? You want to set your own business up, I've got no right to tell you how to do it. But this is where I think there's going to be a big division in our space. And I know firmly which side of the fence I'm on, which is, there's going to be some people that use self-employed agency models to grow their own business, and then they'll hire staff. You know, you can see it all the time. People on LinkedIn that are banging on about, I've not worked a Saturday in 6 months. Well, great. Well, who's doing your viewings? Like, is that what's best for your client? No, you just care about earning more money. And that's fine. Don't go preaching that you're the new, you know, because you're just another high street agent in disguise. That's what you're growing. You want to do that? That's cool. It's not a problem. What I want to do is I feel like our success has come from that personal service, and I don't get, nobody will convince me otherwise that it's better having a team. You just can't do it. So I wanted to grow other agents like me doing it exactly the same way. So we've now got 5 agents. We've got operations manager. We've got marketing. With 2 sales progressors. So there is 9 of us. We did have 10, but it wasn't working out with an administrator. So we've got 9 of us now in the team, 5 agents. We this year, as a team, will have agreed about 700,000 in fees.
How's that compared to when you're at Countrywide?
Well, you know what? Our goal this year was to hit 1 million in agreed fees, and I'm really pissed off we haven't done it. But that's the fun of the market, right? But I was having this chat with a very good friend of mine who we sell new builds for, and he was literally like, 700, and then I realised it was more than what my old region did at Countrywide.
Your entire region?
Yeah, and we've done it out of nowhere. It's just five people without an office. You know, just kind of, you know, well, we have an office, but you know what I mean. But without a high street presence and marketing budgets and all these processes and systems and HR departments, it's just like, we just focus on what's important to people, just like selling houses.
Yeah.
But personally, like I said, again, something I am pissed off about it because it really annoys me. Before today, So I'm 150 grand away from saying that I've sold 100 million pounds worth of houses. I've done 99.85 million in agreed sales
on your own.
Just me personally.
Just you.
Yeah. So the team's done considerably more, but me personally, since starting in 19, just under 100 million.
Let's just be clear on the fact that this is in Milton Keynes. This isn't
Don't
in Kensington.
knock Milton Keynes, right?
He loves Milton Keynes.
I love Milton Keynes.
He's Milton Keynes
there.
salesperson.
I've been there. I love Milton Keynes. Great place.
But yeah, this is average house price of like 350 grand.
Exactly. That's we need to mention that.
Yeah. So I think in 2020 or 2021, I think in 2021, I personally sold 110 houses. Don't recommend it. Nearly killed myself. Genuinely, I ended up in hospital.
My God.
And that was the sign of you need support, you need help, because it was a case of, and it's why, again, I kind of have a slightly different view with people that are like, if you just want to do small amounts of business, then it's, on your terms. And I'm just like, if you are a half decent estate agent and you start selling homes, you're going to get recommended, and then it compounds. You don't have a choice. Like if you're not a great agent, you'll be fine. But if you're as good as you say you are, it won't be a choice, because you won't turn people away. So, it's a case of, I only deal with this many clients at one time. No, you don't. You're only saying that, but you don't have that many clients. As soon as more than those people come along, trust me, you'll be dealing with them. But that's why it's a case of, you need to plan in advance, and you've got to bring your support in and make sure that you're leveraging out the non-important functions. So we looked at it, I always say we, and I think it's because it's Sarah. So it is we. But I've really struggled with support, because I built it around this personal service where you get me and I'm going to look after you and do all the rest of it. And then it's a case of, now I'm going to change the recipe, and that's not fair on the client. It's not what we promised. Like, am I not the person? Am I high street in disguise type thing? And I spoke to one of my really good clients who became a friend, and that's typically what happens, obviously, in this industry. And I said, I'm thinking about sort of bringing someone in to look after sales progression. Like, how would you feel about that? And he kicked he goes, how arrogant are you? How arrogant are you to think you're the only one that can do it? Because I don't give a monkey's. He goes, frankly, at that point, it's actually the solicitor. Your job is to make sure they're doing their job. So why does it need to be you? He goes, and it was that realization of, you're right. Do you know what? If I'm out there running around like a headless chicken, taking a load of houses on, and you're trying to exchange on your home, and I'm not available, that's not right. So that's why we kind of went, do you know what? We're going to deal one-on-one with everything from valuation through to MOS going out, and then someone who turns out a lot better at me than it, sales progression.
That's what they do all day.
They do is their passion. Believe it or not, there are people out there that have a passion for that part of the job.
Really?
Clearly, they're insane, but they love that part of the process. And now the clients are getting an even better standard of service, and I'm doing what I think is the most valuable part for my clients. So it's a case of that, the world doesn't revolve around you. You've got to plan it. But that's, like I said, learnings as we go along. So one of the things I bang on to everyone is get rid of sales progression. Like get rid of sales progression. It takes up loads of mental space. It's really frustrating. The process in this country, I could bang on about. I think it's an absolute joke how the process works in this country, but it is what it is for now, and you don't need to be the one that's doing it. Let someone better than you do it.
So obviously a team of 9 now, looking to expand that team, no doubt. But just talk to me a little bit about what you've got inside the business that supports agents from getting off the ground. What's your value proposition to them?
Well, this was always the key. It was a case of, if someone's going to join the team, it can't just be, I can't be the value prop. Yes, there's always going to be an element of somebody who wants to work with you and all the rest of it, but for me it was about longevity. It's about retention. It's a case of, what do I need to put stuff in place that makes their life easier. And I know, use mortgage brokers as a perfect example. The self-employed mortgage brokerage model is really, really popular in financial services. But why do those brokers? It's because they just want to do the business. They want to faff around with being a business owner and whine about this and that and all the rest of it. And I think there's probably a huge amount of estate agents that are the same, where it's a case of, they love the idea of working the way that we work, but they're like, everyone's banging on about, your business. I'm like, I don't want to run a business. So I looked at it and kind of went, what was my struggles at the beginning? What have I learned? What processes have I got in place? So what can I put in place for other people, just so that they can focus on the fun bit? So that's what we do, is we take away sales progression for them. We've got administration done in terms of AML checks, contracts, and all those sorts of things. So they can literally just focus on the bits that you can't get away from, which is kind of like bits on your social. We do a lot of socials for them, but obviously in terms of content, it's got to be you. It's got to be you out there. So it's like, just do that. Do the bits where it has to physically be you, and then focus on taking on houses and selling, and we'll worry about all of the rest of it in the background. And so the goal is to be able to say to somebody, we're a shortcut. Trust me, I've learned the hard way. Come and learn from my mistakes. We've got all the stuff in place, and just come in and get into production a lot faster. And the irony is that, you know, technically on paper, like the splits of our team are not as good as if you were to go with, you know, a brokerage directly. But in the same way that you go out to a seller and say, it's not about what my fee is, it's about what you take home after. It's a case of going, if you can have a higher price point, higher sales fee, and higher volume because of being a part of the team, and you then take home more after. And again, don't get, you know, this is one of my biggest frustrations, is when you're seeing people out there on LinkedIn kind of using this model of, oh, if you can sell 2 houses a month at $5,000 fee, then you make 120 grand a month. You're like, no, you're not. That's not how it works. Well, for starters, you're going to take home less than that because you've got to pay your cut to whoever. And then you're the first person to say you're running a business. So that's your revenue, right? You then got your costs, and then you've got your gross profit, and then you've got your corp tax, and you've got your net profit. That's what you're going to earn. So it's being able to say to the guys, because we're running all the costs through us, well, most of the costs through us, they've got small amounts of costs. It's a case of going, whatever your cut is, that is pretty much now profit. So that is what you're going to earn, as opposed to, you know, all of the bits coming out. So that was always the goal, is like, just help people just to get into where they're most valuable for the client is just being in front of them.
You do a lot of direct mail content for them as well, don't you? And I think that's something important to mention, because, you know, you can be the best lister in the world, doesn't necessarily mean you're great at designing leaflets or writing content or anything like that. That sort of stuff could take me forever. I know you'd knock it up in 5 seconds because that's what you're good at. But if somebody said to me, go and design a leaflet and go and write the content for it, I could spend days.
I'm one of those weird people that love lead gen. Like, I love lead gen. For me, it's like a game. It's kind of like, you know, seeing what works, what doesn't, and people are so irrational. You know, you can't kind of go, oh, we'll just write the message of how we work versus how a normal agent works, and then they'll go, oh, that's the obvious choice. It doesn't work like that. You know, you've got status quo bias, you've got to overcome, and all the rest of it. So I love that side of things. And so being able to say to people, don't worry about any of that. We'll design this, we'll bring a new tech for you, we'll elevate this, we'll do this. Just we'll constantly try and make your life easier and your proposition even better to people. And we'll try and make as many people know about it as possible, so you again can just kind of hopefully just get the calls, hi, I want you to come sell my house for me. They're like, great, just go and do that bit, we'll worry about the rest of it.
Do the fun stuff. Excellent. You had a question, I think, Mark.
Yeah, probably the last one, actually. Why Keller Williams? Why still here?
Probably the most common question I get asked, to be honest. It's because on paper, again, you kind of just go, you know, you're not even trading as Keller when you've got your own brand. And you don't use the market centre and all the rest of it. For me, it's bigger than that. I really value network for starters, and it's a case of being connected to people that I would never be connected to. So I'm being coached at the moment by a very, you know, prominent person within Keller in the States. That sort of person is so far away from my bubble. It's ridiculous. I would never have access to someone like that. And the difference that they've made on my business in the last 3 months alone has been massive. So again, it's not about what you're giving; it's about your investment as such. And I know, although we're a team now, I still love the social element of kind of being connected to people again, even within the UK that I'd never be connected to. Some amazing agents, and there's some really good friends in parts of the UK that I've never been to before. And everyone is good at different stuff. So we're like really good at certain stuff and really crap at other stuff. And so it's being able to learn that from other people. So yeah, it's more than that. I like the culture. I feel like there are some brokerages which will just turn into the corporates of the self-employed agent world, where it's a bit more kind of Billy bullshit, kind of and it's just like, that's great, but that's not for me. I prefer more strategic and sort of, you know, proper business, as it were. So that's why, you know, I'm still part of Keller. Is I just feel like it's not just about what I pay Keller to be in Keller. It's the wider investment is just the return is you know is much better than what you might think it is.
Okay. Well, look, thank you for sitting down and chatting to us. We've got a bit of a busy day ahead with some masterminding with other agents, which is great. But yeah, amazing. Thank you for being our first guest on the podcast.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you.
Thank you. Done. Well done.
Good.
So first podcast out the way, Claire. What's your summary of Dominic's hour there?
Well, I love his honesty. I love his passion and his commitment for delivering exactly what the customer needs. I love how he's always working to improve the structure, the support, and the resources within his business as well to help his agents, his agent partners to win. I absolutely love the way they communicate their value proposition. And I really like his collaborative style. Like any and all self-employed agents should be working together, regardless of what kind of brand that they associate themselves with. And I love that he is a real advocate for that as well. He's so passionate about improving the standards within our industry. I love his new website as well, which is first class. People should go and look at that. Lionestates.co.uk. It's amazing. But yeah, as I said, probably in the introduction, I just when I think of Dominic Marcel, I think about passion, and what a great guy he is, and I love how he loves to share.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the only other thing to add for that is that he is the ambassador for Milton Keynes as well. So anyone that's looking to move to Milton Keynes, there's only one person to go to. So that is Dominic Marcel for Milton Keynes.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Well, Dominic Marcel is going to take over the world, but he's starting with Milton Keynes.
Yeah, it will always be his home. So yeah, look, fabulous first one. A lot more to come as well from other podcasts that we've got obviously lined up as well. So first one done. So well done to everyone.
Brilliant.